Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the final session of the machine bag sew along. And I would like to use this opportunity to say, if you've been with us from the very, very beginning, thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure having you on board. And whilst I would love to dance right now and say, yes, we're on the home stretch, I know that we still have a bit of work to do. We still need to add the lining to the whole bag and then finish off with the base. But if you've been sewing along with me and you've gotten this far, as in the outer has already been attached to the gusset, well done. And I really am impressed by all the work that has gone into it. So today what we're going to do is, I hope you were able to finish off because my bobbin thread ran out yesterday. So I finished off the second part of the outer panel, just finished sewing that up, and that was it. And this is the finished product with the outers sewn on. So today it's just the inners we're going to sew in and then add the base. If you're adding feet to your bag, as in I've opted not to, and because of that I have not made the holes go through my outer fabric. But please make sure that the marks we made on the outer fabric gusset, base gusset, make sure that they actually go through the outer fabric onto the other side, or that they are marks you can actually see. Because once the whole thing is all finished, the lining has been added, we're going to be adding, well, you're going to be adding the feet from the outside to the inside. So that's why, just make sure that those markings are visible on the outside, or you make a hole all the way through so that they're visible on the, you can see them on the other side as well. So like I said, thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you for being part of this so along. It's been fun. It's been different from the last one I did, and I'm sure the next one is going to be different as well. So we're going to go right into it, and we're going to start clipping the outer to the gusset. So we take our first outer fabric, and we take our bag of clips. Now the way we're going to do that is, you can see that the lining for the outer, they're all facing, one faces the rough edges, one rough edge faces the right, one of rough edge faces the left, and the zipper is right in the middle of both of them. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take the one on our left hand side, which is on the other side of the zipper. We're going to pull it over the zipper, as in squish these other bits into, and make sure it comes right over the zipper. Don't worry, the first time I had to do this as well, I was just frowning and thinking, what the heck am I doing? But trust me, it works. So you squish that all the way down, because we want that completely out of the way. And as you can see, that is the zipper. You can see the two sides of the zipper there. But this other, the other gusset from the other side, it has been pulled right across over both open zippers, both teeth of the open zipper, and we have it on the other side. And then we're now going to pin our fabric, our lining fabric, to the gusset lining. So with our trusty clips, we're going to start putting all of these in place. So, hello, Sewing Patterns by Mrs. H. Hope you're fine. I'm a stickler for time, so when it says 5 o'clock, I tend to start at exactly on the dot of the hour. I know it's something that when I have to do lives, I might need to change, but I really, really am a stickler for time. So just snipping away bits and pieces there. And so all we're doing right now is just clipping the lining fabric to the gusset. And remember, when you get to the curves, you might want to just clip those in a little bit so that it's easier for you. It's easier to go around them. Okay. So we just keep clipping and going round. And remember, like I said, because we've got to squish the bag piece itself right in so we can get round the edge of the gusset we really, really need. So don't be afraid to squish it down. It's all nice and fluffy anyway, so squishes nice and easily. So we just keep clipping and clipping and clipping. No problem. Sewing patterns by Mrs. H. I have to stop every single thing I'm doing like 30 minutes before so I don't forget that I have to go live on air. So all I'm doing is just fiddling around and making sure that it all goes round properly. I think having to clip every single thing down takes more time than actually doing the sewing, but it's something that we need to do anyways. And it's better to have it done properly than starting to sew, finding out there is a problem, and then going back again to sort of figure out and resolve the issue. So let's take our time to put that into place. Okay, so as we can see, the lining piece has been attached all the way around. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a machine, and it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance again for the lining. So please don't forget, it is 1/2 an inch going all the way around. And you can see that the part we've already sewn, as in the bag, is right in between, is right in the middle of all of that. So we're just going to go around with the gusset facing upwards. We're just going to sew around the now I'm trying to figure out where the zipper is. Okay, that's the base. So the zipper is up here. So with the gusset facing upwards, we're just going to go and sew around the lining to join the zipper to the gusset to the lining fabric. And like I said, it's 1/2 inch seam allowance. Just squish down, nicely place under your machine foot. There we go. Where there. And we sew merrily along. Please take your time as you do this, because like I always say, there really is no rush. I want to make sure that wherever we're sewing lies nice and flat. So slow and steady always wins the race, as they say. So we just keep going nice, slowly, steadily, making sure we get our seam allowances right. Okay, we're getting to another curve, so nice and slowly we just swivel around that one too. And if you've got tweezers, like I said yesterday, please feel free to use your tweezers to hold the fabric in place. But please, please, please do not sew over your tweezers. I've broken a few needles doing that. And today of all days, when I am, well, 99.9% sure that I'm not going to need any extra bobbin thread, I have an extra one. Make sure that the bulk does not get caught in any part of your machine. So I try to sort of like move the fabric out of the way as my machine goes under. So just try and make sure that it doesn't get caught in anything, because mine has a tendency of just hanging off one of all those hooks and things there. So the third corner. You would think it would be a lot easier doing this because the lining does not have all the bulk and everything, but it's still not easy because of the bulk that already exists on the other side. But it's a lot easier. Well, it's a lot easier than doing the first part. If I can count properly, we should be on the last curve now, unless I haven't been counting and I thought I have, which is very possible. Yep, that was the last curve. So I was counting. Okay, so we've gone all the way around on that one, and this is where it gets a bit hairy and a bit where I'm a bit unsure. Now, to make sure that the bag does not sag or anything, what we can do is at the very, very top here, we pinch the seam up there for the outer, the seam of the outer to the gusset, and the seam of the lining to the gusset. We pin it together, and then we just sew right across within the seam allowance. Not so it's going to be really, it's about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. We just sort of like sew that together just to make sure that the top of the bag does not sag. And we can do that for the sides as well, but that's going to be, well, we would have to sort of like squish the bag really, really down to get to the sides. But if you can, please feel free to do that. I'm going to make sure that this stays just right within the seam allowance and it doesn't go out of that. So just pinching the seam allowances off the top of the lining and the main that we've already sewn to the gussets. Pinch them together and just sew within the seam allowance to hold them together. That's done. Okay, so that's done now. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to do the other side of the gusset. And to do that, that's already been closed off and there's no other opening but just that one. So we need to turn it so that this lining turns all on itself and we have access to the other zipper gusset, the one that has not yet been sewn. So we just turn it all the way around like that. And you can see that the other zipper gusset with the unsewn end is peeking through. So that's one zipper gusset done, sewn down, and this is the other one. So when you're reading the pattern and you're not going through the process, you read some things and it's like, that really doesn't make sense and I don't even see how that is going to work. But once you begin to put it all together and you begin to follow the processes, you find out that yes, it actually does work. So as we can see, that's one of the lining done. Then this is the other zipper gusset, which is on that side. Now, if you missed if you missed what I did the very first time to do that, what you do is the gusset that's not yet been sewn, you pick it up. Now, this is the opening, this is the zipper opening. You pick it up, fold it right over the opening completely, squish every single thing in the middle of it, squish it all down. So all you have access to is just that gusset. So as you can see, all we have access to is the gusset. Now, this one will be slightly different from all the other gussets we've had to put together, because like most bags that we make, we still have to birth it, as in we still have to turn it from the wrong side to the right side. So with this one, we're going to leave an opening at the bottom. about 10 inches. And please, you can make it 10 inches or bigger than 10 inches, but make it as big as possible, because all of that, the whole bulk of this, would have to go through that opening so we can birth it to the right side. Bear that in mind when you're leaving the space to turn the back right side out. So we're going to take the other end, the other lining fabric, and we're going to clip those as well, like we did for the very first one. Remembering that at the very, very bottom of the bag, we're going to leave an opening so we can turn. And I'm sure somebody might ask, what are the chances I'll forget to leave the opening? Very, very high. But I shall try and remember. I was just checking to make sure that when I flip it over, I can still get to the opening of the pockets, the mesh pockets that we put in there. So all we're doing now is just clipping in place. So it makes it a lot easier to just sew around it. And if you're using pins as well, they do work well. Before I got my sort of can full of clips, I would normally have used pins, and they really worked well, except for when I forget they're there and I paint the whole room red. But apart from that, they really, really are very handy, and they do work as well. Almost done. And I'm doing every single thing I can to remember to leave the space. Okay. Ten inches is my ruler. So from the base, I need 10, 5. So roughly about there. And there. Ouch. Okay, so that makes some logical sense for me to just move those there and stick one in there. Okay, so now we're putting the whole thing together, and that is our 10-inch opening that we've left, so we can turn the bag around. It can be 10 inches and it can be bigger than 10 inches, but make it as big as possible so it's easy for it to come out from within there. So we're going to go back to our machine, squish every single thing down, make sure it goes right into the machine. Gusset side facing upwards, and actually it'll be easier to start gusset side facing upwards, and then we sew right round. And it's still 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you start sewing from, if you're starting to sew from the start of the 10-inch space, backstitch, and when you get to the end of it at the other side, backstitch as well. I haven't backstitched this one because my machine just sort of does this funny, what do they call the bird nest, whatever at the end, so I know it's not going to come undone when I start, but when I finish I've got to remember to backstitch. Make sure your bag is not hanging to anything, because then it drags and it could snap your needle or something. So make sure it's not caught on anything on the machine and that it moves freely as you're moving around. Slow and steady, and try not to yank. Going nice and slowly. Okay, now at another corner. I try to take at a reasonable speed. Where are you? I think we're getting to the very last curve. Okay, nice and slowly over the curves. And make sure it's still half an inch, because I don't know why it keeps receding, but it enjoys doing that a lot. Do not sew over your tweezers, please. So we've now gone all round and we've okay, slight problem there. I'll just unpick that because it seems to have scrunched up there, and I don't think I cut the full 1/2 inch. So just a quick adjustment. Gosh, these stitches are so tiny. Okay, and if you can see that, that's what I mean. It hasn't really gone through properly, so I'll just fix that. And our machine bag is more or less done. Okay, I'm trying to take off the wrong stitch. That's why it's not working, but found it. Oh, I know why that happened. It's where the elastic meets with the lining fabric. The elastic seems to have pulled it down a bit. So I'm just going to go over that area again, making sure that everything is nicely tucked in. So when you're sewing yours all the way around, be very careful that the part where the elastic joins with the lining, that it doesn't recede when you're sewing right over it. And I'll have to check the other side as well. The other side seemed to have worked well, just this one. So we'll just quickly go over that. And then we're going to birth our bag, which should be interesting. Okay, yeah, and that looks a lot better than previously. So now that we have the lining all done, as in all the gusset has been attached to both the outer piece A and to the lining piece A. So what we're going to do now is birth our bag. And do we first before we add finish this over? Oh, before, just a second. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where exactly we turn it to the right side. Okay, Yeah, so once we've done that, we leave the 10 centimeter, the 10-inch turning gap, and then we turn to the right side. So this is where it becomes really interesting, and we find out if we have enough space. So what I normally do is I try to grab the corners and then I start working the bag. Not many people love this process, but I don't really mind it, because if I wasn't doing this video, I'll just sit down, I'll be watching something, and I'll just be fidgeting with it until it turns right side out. And the trick is just to go a tiny little bit at a time. So once I've grabbed the corner, pushed it out as far as I can, then I begin to work all the other bits and pieces, pulling out as much as I can in tiny little bits and going all the way around. And eventually it takes shape and it is the right side out. So just like that, our lovely machine bag has been birthed. So we'll need to push out all the bits and pieces and all the corners. We try and make sure that it's properly pushed out. We can iron every single thing in place if we want to, so that it looks really nice and it really looks nice and crisp. We could do that as well. Or so stick your fingers in all those corners and push out as well as you can, because we are more or less done. So the last thing we need to do, remember our foam board, the ones where we put the holes right through, and you would have punched the holes all the way through when we put the 6 holes in at the very beginning, the very first video. And what we now have to do is we need to insert the foam board into the opening, the turning gap. So that 10-inch gap we used to turn the bag, we now have to stick the foam right through that. So you might want to go in sideways and then push it in the right way, but carefully does it so you don't snap the board. So you can push it in all the way through the side. It goes completely into the bag. It's sticking out there. Then turn it sideways and position it where it's meant to be. So you push it in, it goes up in between the lining and the outer fabric, and then you turn it side the way it's meant to be, horizontally, vertical, and horizontally along the bag, and you place it right there at the bottom. Make sure it's nicely positioned. And all this we have to do because remember, it's all to protect the sewing machine. If we've done it all properly, as in we've put all the holes we need to put in and we've all done that all properly, they should all line up with the holes that I reminded us that we needed to put at the very, very bottom of the bag. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to take your prongs. This is now the time when we now add the bag fit to the machine bag. So remember the 6 holes that I said at the beginning of this video, to make sure that you can see them on the other side. This is where we now need to use those holes, push them right through into the holes that have been pre-punched into the foam board. So we're going to do that from the outside. Push the prongs in, and they come out on the other side, and then spread the prongs out. So you do that 6 times for the 6 sides of the for the 6 feet that we're attaching. And once that is done and all of that has been put nicely done and we're happy with it, we might want to place tape. I think it's tape, duct tape. We might want to put duct tape over those prongs on, inside, as in the prongs that we sort of we pushed sideways to hold the feet in. We might just want to put duct tape over them to make sure that it doesn't sort of come through the lining fabric, or it doesn't punch through the lining fabric or anything, just to make sure it's secure and it's in place as well. So once that has been done, the very, very final part of this is to top stitch our bag. And hand sewing is not my forte. So hand stitching is not really my forte, but I'm going to try and hand stitch. Although I'm teaching some little kids how to hand stitch. I hate hand stitching, but it's just one of those things. So what you have to do is make sure that your seams, the seam of the lining of the 2 linings, you can sort of join them together, and then we're just going to top stitch those round. And while doing that, we're going to pin them down or clip them down to make it easier to sew right over them. Or if you if you want, you can actually just machine sew or zigzag sew all over them, but it's up to you how you want to finish it up. But I'm going to try and hand stitch it while I sort of relax and all that. And just like that, that is our machine bag, nicely finished. And ready to handle anything we want to put it through. So like I said, we may want to iron it, because birthing always creases up every single thing we do. So there it is. And I would like to say well done to every single person. I know adding gussets and things is not the easiest, but that has really turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to. So well done, every single person. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to Mrs. H. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been great. It's been eye-opening. I've enjoyed myself. And There will be more sew-alongs. There are lots more sew-alongs within this Mrs. H support group. So please feel free to go in there and check the other ones we have. There will be notices out about the different ones we have. And I'll be back again next month for another sew-along. Thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye.